Hello, and thank you so much for being here today and for joining my talk. My name is Liron Cohen. I'm the Senior Program Coordinator for the National Association of Anorexia, Nervosa, and Associated Disorders, which we call ANID. And I would love to talk to you today about this unique resource that is peer support and how it can promote eating disorder recovery. So thank you to the PCAC for inviting me, and let's dive in. So ANID is the leading nonprofit organization in the U.S. that provides peer support programs for eating disorders. We have been in existence for almost 50 years. We started as local support groups, and these days our services are virtual. We offer them to the entire U.S., and they are free. So what is peer support? Peer support has been around for a while. It's a very well-known, well-established approach that's been used in mental health in general, and more specifically, it's been used for addictions. And it's founded on the principle that people who have lived experience with a mental health issue have a unique ability to provide support to others who also are dealing with the same issue. And evidence does show that people who receive this service, peer support, as part of their treatment, do show improved recovery results compared to those who don't receive this service. In eating disorders, the way that peer support works in our organization, people who have lived experience with the disorder and who have gone through the process of recovery and who have been trained by us, of course, learn to use their lived experience to support other people who are still on their journey seeking recovery or working towards recovery. Much of our knowledge and many of the things that I'm going to tell you today are based on research coming out of Australia mainly. They did a lot of work there to research and provide much of the evidence-based information that we have now about how beneficial peer support is in eating disorders. And one of those things that research showed was that making new social connections and building positive relationships was the number one factor contributing to recovery from eating disorders. And it certainly is not a surprise to those of us who understand eating disorders, who are familiar with them. They are extremely isolating and filled with a lot of shame. And so it is a very natural human tendency to seek out connection with people who can understand and who can empathize. We also know that when there are no positive peer support connections available, then the risk is that people might find these connections in places where they don't necessarily promote eating disorder recovery and in fact might be detrimental. And so we provide services for support, connection, and community in a safe way, in a beneficial way, in a supervised way that benefits everybody, both beneficiaries and volunteers and staff. So I would love to introduce several of our programs. We do a lot of advocacy and outreach in general, but we do have several programs that are our main programs of service that we offer. We have the helpline, which is staffed by both those with lived experience and their loved ones. And it oftentimes is that first line of support, of that response for people who are struggling, for people who are trying to figure out what is going on, what kind of help is available. This is not a crisis line, it's a warm line, and it's really that place where we can offer a listening ear, empathy, support, provide hope that recovery is possible, and oftentimes give practical tools such as coping skills and also share resources to help people reach treatment or find more information and psychoeducation. Our referral service, we understand that searching for an eating disorder provider can be an overwhelming task that oftentimes actually might be a barrier to recovery. And so with our referral service, what we do is we connect beneficiaries with providers based on their request, on their location, of course, their insurance, in order to make that process easier, in order to help people reach treatment. We also have a treatment directory on our website where people can actually go and just look for providers themselves, but we provide this service in order to help reduce that sense of overwhelm in searching for specific providers. Our support groups, are facilitated by those with lived experience, and they really are there to facilitate a safe space where the participants can share their experience, can receive support. We have many different types of support groups. Many of them are generalized, open to everybody, but we also have some that are identity-based, like our LGBTQ plus one or our BIPOC one. And we also do pop-up groups around holidays or special events or special identities. And sometimes pop-up groups are ways for us to test and see what kind of interest there is in that sort of identity-based group. And then sometimes if we're able to, we do make them regular. For example, we had recently a chronic illness and disability group, which was a pop-up group and is now becoming a regular group. We also have a collaboration with Feast, where we can offer support groups for caregivers and siblings, and those are led by caregivers and siblings. And finally, our last service is the mentorship program, which I would like to talk to you a little bit more in depth about because it's the program that I head. I'm also in charge of developing training for all of ANAD volunteers, but I also specifically I run the mentorship program. It's very near and dear to my heart, and so I would like to just put the focus on that a little bit today to really introduce peer support in more of how it works.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. I'm Sophia, as you kind of saw in our email. I am currently a part-time student, and I am studying to become a doctor one day. I had an eating disorder mainly in my high school years, and I struggled with that for a while. Thankfully, my parents kind of got me into treatment, forced me into treatment because at the time I did not think I needed it. Thankfully, I got better after, a lot of hard work and a lot of recovery support. Um, and after a few years of just reflection on that time, I realized that this was kind of something that I wanted to give back to others, and realized that it was super isolating for me. I didn't have this program. I didn't realize that this was even a thing. And as you probably know, just thus far in recovery, that it can be isolating because no one really understands what you're going through unless like they've been through it. And so that's kind of the purpose of this, especially if you're struggling just with figuring out like, why am I doing this? I don't even really know why I'm doing recovery. Like, this is a really good way to explore that because you can talk it through with someone who has been there before.
What is mentorship? For added purposes, the mentorship program is a structured program where we match a person who is in solid recovery with a person who is working towards recovery. They meet together once a week virtually on video for 6 months. It is a supplement and definitely not a substitute for treatment. And not only do we make sure that people who come to us to be mentees, to request for a mentor, not only do we make sure that they are in treatment and stay in treatment throughout their participation in the program, but the research has shown that one of the many benefits of mentorship is reduced rates of dropout from treatment for those who are in the mentorship program. So here's a quote from one of our mentees. We send out anonymous surveys several times a year, and we like to use those quotes to learn from and also feel a great sense of reward. One of those quotes, I could talk to my mentor about things I couldn't necessarily talk to my team about. It was helpful to hear her perspective since she's lived through recovery. And so this is what I mean about that unique resource. It is a unique perspective, a unique lens through which people can connect based on shared experience. It is very unique. Who are our mentors? And these criteria are pretty similar across all of our programs with slight variations per program. But for mentors, they have to have a lived experience with an eating disorder. We also look, of course, for people who have high levels of empathy, insight, self-awareness, who are able to articulate from their experience. They need to be over the age of 18 and in solid recovery for at least 2 years. And our definition of recovery is the process of taking back control of one's life and working towards a satisfactory and meaningful life, no longer dominated by one's eating disorder. Recovered people manage eating disorder thoughts and behaviors, maintain a nutritionally balanced lifestyle, can identify situations of personal risk, and maintain a meaningful self-care practice to manage their well-being. So our definition of recovery is extremely flexible, adaptable, and takes into account that everybody has a unique journey, unique recovery goals, and that this is a very personal journey that we have conversations about with our mentors to understand what recovery means to them. Our mentors go through training and have ongoing supervision. In training, they receive great amount of education, both about things like different types of treatment, different types of eating disorders, intersectionality, effective communication skills and tools, how to set boundaries. They do a lot of role playing of various scenarios. They learn and practice how to share their personal story in a purposeful, safe, and beneficial way. They are trauma-informed, and they have ongoing supervision and receive a lot of support. We emphasize the connection and the community at ANID, which is, I think, our greatest strength. So who are the mentees? For all of our programs are open to everybody. Anybody who wants to come doesn't have to meet any certain criteria. However, because of the intense nature of the relationship between the mentor and the mentee, we do have some criteria in place the mentees have to meet. They need to be engaged in outpatient treatment, so they need to have professional support, but it cannot be a higher level of care. It's at the outpatient setting. They receive a clinical clearance from their therapist or mental health care provider that they are stable enough to participate in a program and are a good fit for the program. They need to be motivated to do recovery work because this is a very intense program, and so they need to be ready to set goals and meet with their mentor every week. And we have a minimum age of 16 for this program. And then I get to do my favorite part, which is the matching, the putting together of the puzzle of putting people who I think would work well together. Usually we base that based on demographics, fields of interest, any kind of relevant identities, belonging to certain communities, and of course any kind of special requests that the mentees make. And that is definitely my most favorite part of the season, where I get to put people together and just kind of create that little magic of matching. The mentor role is really quite varied, but in its foundation, it is just providing that safe space where, based on shared lived experience, you can grow, you can feel hope. The mentor serves as a role model that recovery is possible, that hope is still there. We focus on the whole person, not just the disorder. So we remind our mentees that they are a lot more than the disorder, which helps them quiet down or learn how to challenge the eating disorder voice while shoring up their strengths and their true identities and authenticity. It helps, of course, with reduction of isolation and shame in that shared space of understanding, that deep understanding, and getting it on a level that is only there when you have lived experience. And in that safe space, we can practice building a positive relationship, tools that these people oftentimes learn and use in other relationships in their lives. So, and that is something that we actually put a lot of emphasis on, strengthening existing support systems. So really setting up the mentee to continue on with this work, this 6 months period, to take all those tools and to take that safe space, that empathy, that understanding, and take it and use it in every other aspects in their life. And we really see from the research that the number one benefit for mentorship is hope and motivation. And here's another quote from our mentee. It meant so much to be able to work with someone who has been in recovery and who I could look at as a possibility for my own future. So if you see it, you can be it. And oftentimes in eating disorders, we don't get a lot of opportunity to see recovery and see hope. So being able to see somebody else who's done it, who is walking the walk, who can attest to the fact that it is possible, is a huge motivator. The work that we do together in mentorship is very broad, varied, it's flexible. It depends on the mentee, what they're bringing, what they're looking for. But we're definitely very goal oriented in addition to all the emotional benefits, which is the hope, the motivation, etc. It is also very practical. We set and pursue recovery goals. We make sure that we explore the mentee's values, and so we can help them set goals that are in alignment with their values. We challenge the eating disorder voice while empowering the authentic voice. We practice coping skills and self-care practices. We provide psychoeducation when needed, such as health at every size, diet culture, wellness culture, body image, and we work together to identify trigger and learn from relapses. So now I would just like to share a video with you, a demonstration, a role play between mentor and mentee, just to have a little example of what the kind of goal setting work that we do together might look like, or what a meeting with a mentor and mentee might look like in a glimpse.
My life was consumed by my eating disorder, and now in recovery, I don't really know like what to do with my free time or how to like build a life outside of that.
First off, I totally want to validate those feelings. That's all totally normal. I remember kind of going through that. You held on to that eating disorder identity for so long, where your life revolved around food, exercise, and not knowing what to do when you're no longer hyper focused on those things. I want to challenge you. Is there something that you've done in your free time when you were before you were kind of going through this eating disorder that you miss or maybe you haven't thought of in a while that you could possibly explore?
That's a really good question. I think in all of this, I've felt really isolated, and I'd love to be able to connect with friends more.
You have a few coworkers that maybe they seem friendly and you could, just ask them, maybe go out on a coffee date or grab dinner after work or something like that. It's kind of a little bit of a challenge, but it also is something that you probably would enjoy if you took the step to do that. Does it sound like something that you would maybe be able to challenge yourself this week?
Going out to dinner and having a meal with this new person is a bit nerve-wracking. Will I be thinking about what they're eating? Will I be thinking about what they're thinking about what I'm eating? Like all those thoughts just with this new person, I think does make me a little bit anxious.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, these are totally normal feelings to have. Maybe if you don't feel, like you're fully comfortable with doing like a whole meal with someone, maybe doing a coffee shop where it's more like you can use that as like a snack that's part of your day where it's like, okay, I'm deviating from my usual meal plan, but it's only kind of one of my snacks, whereas I don't feel as scary about changing that up versus a whole meal. I think another thing that I find very helpful with these kind of little leaps of faith that you take throughout recovery is afterwards, if you have a journal or maybe even call your mom if that's someone that you have a good relationship with, and just kind of go over how it went as you reflect on those different leaps of faith that you take. It gets easier every time because you realize, like, okay, it wasn't as bad as I anticipated.
So the mentorship benefits are many and varied, and of course we can't get into all of them today, and there is so much more that I would want to tell you, but I understand that I have only a certain limited amount of time, and so this is just a glimpse or a taste into what peer support can do. But from the research we know that some of the benefits are reducing social isolation, reducing feelings of shame and stigma, reducing rates and severity of relapse, improving engagement with treatment, improving practical life skill development, and improving quality of life, all of which are huge benefits. Again, I would love to share a few quotes from our mentees. Aned's mentorship offering is absolutely incredible. It's a game changer. I've had my stints at recovery before, and they've all been or felt fleeting, but this time has felt different. I'm incredibly and forever grateful to Aned, my mentor, and this program for what the last 6 months have done for me. Another quote, I feel more equipped to tackle the next stage of my life. I feel empowered to recover fully and have felt empowered to stay in recovery. And finally, someday I want to be a mentor, so this gives me hope that I can get there. So it's the gift that keeps on giving. And we do actually have mentees who come back later on and become mentors, which is one of the most rewarding experiences. So what essentially, the way that I like to think of Anna, in foundation, it's a recovery community. It's a place where we give and receive, where we empower one another, and where all of our recoveries improve, both beneficiaries, volunteers, and staff. And here are a few quotes from our mentors. I feel that being a mentor has strengthened my recovery. It gives me purpose to my struggle to know that I can help someone else through this process. Another quote, it provided a sense of accountability for me, as I didn't want to give my mentee advice I didn't follow myself. I think this mentorship helped in reflection and further healing from my past eating disorder. And finally, mentoring is part of what I do to sustain and strengthen my recovery. So really, we think of it as the gift that keeps on giving. Peer support is just a place where we all advance and empower and promote and encourage one another to continue on our recovery journey, to enhance it, to learn more, and to remember that there's meaning and purpose in all of this. I would love to leave you with a few words from our mentors.
I decided to become a mentor because I went through a lot of my eating disorder recovery on my own. I worked with a therapist partway through my journey. But aside from her, I felt like I had no one I could turn to share my thoughts, to see the benefits of recovery, to kind of motivate me when things got hard.
During the depths of my eating disorders, I did not have a mentor. And if I did, I think the process would have been way easier.
To be the mentor that I didn't have, to be the support system I didn't have, to be the proof that recovery is possible that I didn't have.
It helped me grow to have a purpose. And so when I started my therapy, in the back of my mind, it was always there. It gave me a push because I always wanted to help someone else.
And it's also helped solidify my recovery further. A good reminder of what I don't want to go back to.
I didn't realize being a mentor would also mean that I would get even more support than I would have thought or ever imagined.
Becoming a part of this community is a constant reminder that, the hard work paid off.
It's just like a family of people that have experienced same experiences and share openly and without judgment. I look forward to the supervision groups just to see the different people every month and to hear their stories.
Thank you so much for spending some time with me today and for wanting to learn more about peer support and how it can promote recovery from eating disorders. Again, I'm Liron Cohen, and there's so much more that I would want to tell you and would be happy to tell you, so stay in touch or just go visit our website, anna.org. Thank you again so much.